What's up, everyone? Alex here. This is For the Love of Video Games, episode 270. With me, as always, is my salt to my pepper, my shampoo to my conditioner, Daniel Santos. How's it going, man?
So this is going to be the thing now. This for every episode, you're going to do this now.
I mean, we've been doing this for like 3 weeks now, so why not, right?
Why not? Why not?
Why not? It's pretty fun. It keeps everybody on their toes. Be like, what could be the flavor of the week? Huh? Oh,
do you have like a Word document now that you're slowly developing that you're referring to?
I have no such document, sir. How dare you?
I don't believe you.
I really don't. I'm being honest here, but yeah, what have you been up to, man? Like it's been kind of a crazy last week, right?
Yeah. So for those watching or listening, rather, the timing for episodes have been a little weird, and last week pretty busy. I got a new car, so that was a big reason why. Oh god, I had to drive up to North Miami, which is like hour and a half, and I was stuck at the dealership for like 2 hours. So you're wondering why we didn't get an episode. That's the reason why. And scheduling conflicts, of course. Otherwise we would have done it sooner.
Yeah,
but we're here now. That's what matters.
Exactly. Did you see a lot of orange people there, Daniel? Orange tanned people in North Miami?
No, what the hell are you talking about?
I mean, Florida, for people who are listening outside of the States, they imagine people all tanned and all getting ready to go to beach and stuff. They hear Miami, they think the beach and Orlando and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't actually think like, hey, car dealership.
I've lived here all my life. People normally aren't like that. People look pretty normal.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would imagine,
I hate to break it to you.
Yeah. So MB is thinking of Jersey Shore. Welcome. And yeah.
I mean, there's no Doritos walking around.
Doritos colored people, you mean?
I mean, you're saying, like, are there any orange people? Like,
sure. Yeah. Okay, fine. You got me there. I just want to take this opportunity as well to welcome everybody who is in the Discord chat, who is part of the Backlog Battle Royale Discord. Again, if you guys want to participate every single week, we record this, generally speaking, every Wednesday from 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Except, of course, the next episode is actually going to be recorded on Thursday for this particular week. It's the week of Yakuza 6 release date 1 year last year. So we're going to be talking about that, obviously, on the show. But yeah, again, it is bit.ly/BBArmy Discord if you guys want to join the Backlog Battle Royale Discord. That's quite a mouthful. That is, again, the Backlog Battle Royale Discord. It's bit.ly/BBArmy Discord. And I just wanted to let people know that we do have a clan on PS4 for the Division 2 if you want to join, which is called Backlog Royale. Just, submit like a, kind of like a request to be invited and stuff. We'll invite you in and you can, avail of all the perks of being a member of the Backlog Royale clan on Division 2 for PS4. So anyways, before we talk about like Chrono Trigger, the boss fight book, I just wanted to take a few moments to kind of address something that happened today, like on the recording of the show. We don't normally do this. We don't, try to veer away from video games often and stuff. But, I personally have visited this place. Basically, like the Notre Dame Cathedral, the spire part of it where the rose windows are is burning at this point. I think it's been burning for like about 3 or 4 hours now, and funny,
crazy.
I think it's insane, and people are saying that it's caused by the renovation people and stuff. They accidentally started the fire. I actually can tell you that the Notre Dame Cathedral has been in renovation for more than a decade. Many parts of it have been renovated because, I don't know if you know this, Daniel, but a lot of that cathedral is made of wood.
Yes, I did know that, and I imagine since the building is so old that that wood is so dried out at this point that once the fire started, it just spread so quickly and has just not stopped.
Yeah. Um, and it's kind of crazy too because the renovation was actually happening on that building where the fire started, which is actually back of the two towers that that's so iconic about like the Notre Dame Cathedral, right? Like you think of like Notre Dame Cathedral, you think of the two towers, but there's a huge spire in the back that's actually part of it. And like one of the things I saw this morning is just the spire falling because of the fire, and I was just like, oh. And as somebody who has actually visited the Notre Dame and actually climbed all 200, 300 steps, however, maybe even more than that, all the way up like one of the towers and stuff, and seeing the spires from that angle, it's got to be hellacious, like seeing that over there. So we just wanted to take.
Yeah, I kind of lament that I'll never be able to actually do that.
Yeah. So we're just taking this really quick opportunity to kind of, say our thoughts and prayers over the people of Paris and stuff. And, one thing that people might not know is that literally, like, the Notre Dame Cathedral is at the heart of Paris, not just figuratively, but literally, because Ile de la Cité, which is, Arrondissement 1, is literally the center of Paris, Daniel. That's where Paris was born, and then it just kind of grew outward. So again, our thoughts and prayers to the people there, and if there's anything we can do to help, obviously, like, I'll let you guys know if there's like a charity or something. But I think UNESCO and the government pretty much have it handled, it seems like, and thankfully no one was actually hurt, so that's the good thing about
that's
that.
good, at least.
Yeah, definitely.
But
so
it is a huge shame that all of that history
850 years.
Yes. It's literally melting away.
Yeah. 850 years. Like 13th century, people. Think about that. We're in the 21st. That's how old this place is. So, anyways, I hate to move briskly from that topic to the next, but I think the next topic is a good way to start the show, because we here at the For the Love of Video Games have actually have had the pleasure to be able to work with Boss Fight books in reviewing like one of their very first audiobook titles, which is Bible Adventures. And if you guys don't know what that is, you should YouTube it, because it's so messed up because it is almost barely a game. And Daniel and I have a YouTube video together where it's like a clip of an old episode of the podcast, which of course any archive of the podcast you can see on mybacklogbattle.tv. But this new book isn't Bible Adventures. It's actually a game that is near and dear to many people's hearts. Oh my god, like I stopped like midway, like I lost breath like halfway through saying that. So
that's just how awesome Chrono Trigger is. Like it's has you exacerbated just talking about it.
I know. So tell us about this book, because I have the book right now, obviously, on audible.com and stuff. So yeah, tell me all about it.
So I think it's a pretty good book. I enjoyed it. I'd say that if we're comparing it to the Bible Adventures book, understandably so, it doesn't go quite as deep into the actual development of the game, because I think it would have been hard for the author to get interviews with people like Sakaguchi and Yuji Horii. I mean, he's forgiven for that. I'm sure it was a lot easier for the other writer to get a hold of the developers of the frickin' Bible Adventure games.
Right.
So a lot of the book is him giving kind of like his own personal story of the game, in a way, like kind of what the game meant to him, and him kind of analyzing the game and trying to extrapolate what it means. And I think it's if you go into it expecting like a extremely deep deconstruction, it's not quite that, even though there is some analysis. But I think if you take it more as like, this guy just really loves this game and he wrote a book about it, and he talks about like a lot of how it personally relates to him. I think from that angle, you'd probably enjoy it more. Now, I did say that he doesn't go that deep into the development, and that's true. But what he does go very deep into is the translation. He actually goes as far as to interview Ted Woolsey,
Mm-hmm.
as well as I forget his name, but the guy that translated the DS version.
Okay.
So those two interviews, I think, is one of the more interesting parts of the book. And I wouldn't go as far as to say that to pick it up just for the interview, because the rest of the book is good too. But that is certainly like one of the highlights of the book.
Mm-hmm. That's certainly like probably like one of the things that I'll listen to a lot more is that section. And how much do you think of the book actually, talks about those two?
Uh, the like percentage wise,
Sure, like just a ballpark.
I might say like 10% of the book is the interview and talking about the translation,
Okay.
something like that.
Mhm.
10-15%. Because he does go into detail about the translation itself, and he actually also talks about how the it wasn't only translated by Ted Woolsey and this other guy who did the DS version. There's also like a fan translation, and he doesn't rigorously compare them or anything like that, but he does provide some examples on how they're different and how they're alike.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the more interesting things about the DS version's translation is that unlike any other translation that I've seen, at least, it's based on Ted Woosley's interpretation
Mm-hmm.
rather than it being slavishly devoted to translating the text as how it originally was.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So is it just a lot of anecdotes and kind of personal reflection mostly? Like, because I'm just trying to figure out how much of this, like, is development. I guess it's kind of weird, like, because like in Bible Adventures, obviously, like you said, they were able to contact some of the developers and whatnot. I'm thinking like and hoping maybe that Chrono Trigger, the boss fight book, actually had at least some insight coming from like old articles and stuff like that talking about it, or even like a reflection of what's going on at the time when the game came out and stuff. Like, can you give like a little bit of like a background on what else he's talking about in the book?
Right. So he doesn't really talk about the development of the game itself. Like I said, the only really development stuff that he goes over is the translation.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say that the entire book is just personal anecdotes. He isn't just going like, "Oh, I really like this part, and I liked this part." Like, that's not the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's also an analysis of sorts, not super in depth, I don't think, but he does, try to mix the two, if you get my meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one chapter in particular I will say that I was not totally a huge fan of. The chapter was literally called "Straight White Male," where it gets into some stuff that I thought was kind of pointless. Like, he goes out of his way to count how many NPCs are in the game that are male compared to female.
That's weird.
Yes, I thought it was weird too. I was listening to the book going, what the hell? The only really point in that book, I mean, not the book, in the chapter that I wouldn't go as far as say resonated with, but one that I thought like, yeah, that was a really salient point, was he's gay, and he felt that making Chrono straight kind of goes against the idea behind his character where he's a self-insert. And by canonically making him straight and not allowing, a little bit of the player's imagination kind of run wild, it kind of, it robs the player of that a little bit.
That's an interesting point to make. However, I feel like that's not really how generally like JRPGs are made. I feel like, and I don't know if anybody in the chat or you disagree with this or anything like that, but I feel like, if we compare Western storytelling with Japanese storytelling, right? Japanese seem to be a bit more focused and very, like with the sharpness of, their tools and their gameplay. They want to tell a very specific story, and therefore, like, excuse me. And most localizations of those games are actually altered in such a way that the main protagonist actually is a bit more fully formed and fully fashioned as as a character with their personalities and stuff when it gets over here, right? Let me give you an example. So Kazuma Kiryu, when he's actually portrayed in Japan, he has a lot more ellipses in his entire dialogue tree, or dialogue, Excel file, if you will, than what we do get in the United States. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Like in Japanese, it's like they want people to kind of like feel like that they're that character, right? That they're badass and stuff like that, and kind of absorb the personalities of that character. Whereas here in the West, they have to spell things out a little bit more, in order to kind of get us into the picture and stuff. So I just find that statement in particular that you mentioned really fascinating, because I, having not seen or read or understand any of the Japanese in Chrono Trigger, I wonder if that's kind of like where he's coming from. Is that it was localized specifically so that the Chrono would be like a single white male or something like that. It's just a weird statement to me to actually hear.
Straight white male.
Okay.
And this isn't a localization thing. Like, it's pretty, like, it's made pretty bluntly clear that Chrono is supposed to get with Marl at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's even an animated sequence that they drew of the two of them getting married.
That's
for
true.
The PS1 version.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, there's no ambiguity there. And the thing is, like, I really understand what he's saying when he complains about that, because Chrono is a silent protagonist. He literally doesn't speak. So why bother making him straight? Like, just if you're gonna make him such a blank slate that he doesn't talk throughout the entire fucking game, why not just keep that ass? Like, why even add romance in there at all? Like, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It kind of feels like it doesn't belong.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're basically kind of like, what is your stance on this then?
I mean, I wouldn't. To be clear, I don't think it's a huge deal to begin with, because it's just like one little aspect of like a huge game. But just that I agree with him that like maybe they should have shown some restraint in that regard. But I think a point that he was also trying to make there is that the game was more so specifically like trying to appeal to Japanese boys, right? Because it's a Super Nintendo RPG. Of course, that's the target demographic.
Right.
But yeah, that's like the only chapter of the book that I would say that I was not really a huge fan of. It felt kind of meandering and not preachy, although it does border that at point.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good though, and I would say that if you are a fan of Chrono Trigger, that it's worth listening to. If you want like a fairly short audiobook, it's only like 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You could skip that chapter if you want, though.
Nice.
But otherwise, like, that interview is great. I think some of the points that he makes are interesting. One point he made that I actually thought was very interesting was that he said that the game technically could have been written without time travel, and it could have worked. And at first, I thought that was really weird. I'm like, the game's all about time travel. But I think the point that I was trying to make is that, like, what makes the game great isn't the time travel itself. The time travel is just kind of a tool that the game uses. It could have just as easily been dimension hopping, and that could have worked just as fine.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll take that. Okay. So good book then. That's good.
Yep. Pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good for the most part. Not
Okay.
bad.
Yeah. Let me just read like one of the comments that Kithlin actually posted. He says, I keep starting sentences and not finishing them because this issue is dicey. But developers are either going to tell a story that may have a predetermined romance route, or it may be a player choice driven game. Both are okay, I think. But forcing player choice into a game that isn't really about that, is that inclusivity or pandering? It's actually a very good question. You care to answer that?
Forcing player choice in a game that isn't really about that. Well, the author isn't asking for the developers to put in like, hey, put in a gay option. He's just saying that, they just kind of shoehorned in this romance, and he's just saying the game would have been better off without it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. It's been such a long time since I played Chrono Trigger, so like I have to like really replay that, which, my wife's pretty okay with replaying games and stuff, so that's not a bad thing. Speaking of which, I think because, we kind of started off with an audiobook, I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way, our shilling kind of part of the show. So
Chill.
So, okay, so if you want to be a member of audible.com, they do have a free trial for your first month. And you get a free audiobook, and Chrono Trigger could be one of those. Literally, like any audiobook on audible.com could be free for you if you just sign up for their free trial. They won't charge you until they tell you, and they'll even tell you like when they'll start. So, but before you do that, you might want to use our link, which is bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle, all one word. Once again, that is bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle, because if you use that link, it'll take you to Amazon.com, and then from there you can go to Audible, and they'll actually know that, hey, you've been referred to by the Backlog Battle Community / For the Love of Video Games podcast and stuff. And every single subscription or free trial and stuff like that, like they kick back a little bit of money for us, and we're saving right now for like a new computer because we want to be able to do a lot of whiz bang stuff for like the video podcast, the audio podcast, and all sorts of stuff. Unfortunately, I have a computer that's 10 years old, and and it ages pretty fast as the months go by, and so we'd like to replace that. So doing that will definitely help us out. And of course, if you want to buy anything else on Amazon.com, feel free to use our link again, bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle. Daniel, I actually saw a 4K TV for like $300. That's like 40-inch on Amazon.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's a good deal. And it's actually like by TCL. And I didn't actually know like what TCL is, but they're the third largest appliance / TV manufacturer in the world right now. It's freaking nuts. I never even heard of this company, and I was like, that's something that I'll consider. Heck yeah, that seems like really legit.
Yeah, actually, my dad just got a TCL TV recently, and the picture quality is really good.
Yeah, that's great news. So if you guys want to get like any new TVs or anything, or a new console, there is that discless Xbox One that's coming out in May. Use our link, bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle. But if for some reason that, you feel like you'd much rather donate to us directly, use our coffee link, which is ko-fi.com/mybacklogbattle. Again, that is ko-fi/mybacklogbattle. This will allow you to actually buy us some, cups of coffee, like for $3 per cup of coffee and stuff. You'll be able to donate to us, and all the proceeds go to us directly. That helps out quite a bit, and there's no like middleman. But
please help me inject caffeine directly into my veins.
There's that too. I don't drink caffeine, but this is like one of those, decaffeinated coffees, I believe. But, and lastly, what?
No, I was like, at first I was like, you don't drink caffeine.
Yeah, I
fuck do you have a coffee for?
I don't know. And of course, if you want to set up monthly subscriptions, we have this link, which is mybacklogbattle.tv/donate. Once again, that is mybacklogbattle.tv/donate. You can set up monthly donations and stuff, which again really helps, get us towards like our new PC and stuff. And, again, it'll just help us out, not just video making, but also figuring out things for the community. Because if we have fast computers, we can think more think faster, type faster. we'd like to be able to give back to the community as soon as possible, because the guys here, the guys and girls here, like listening to our podcast as we're recording this, they're super important people, and we'd like you to join us here as well. Again, if you want to join us on Discord, bit.ly/BBArmyDiscord, bit.ly/BBArmyDiscord. Anyways, Daniel, next topic. This is going to be crazy.
Crazy.
I think so. Because it is literally a company who is bragging about something that they have decried over the past several years, and they look like hypocrites because of it. I'm talking about EA. And check this out. So we saw some CG footage of the new Star Wars, video game, the single player video game being made by the former director of he made God of War 3, Stig Asmussen. He's working with Respawn. He's using the Unreal Engine 4 to make a new Star Wars game where you're a Jedi, right? So pretty good. I think it's called Fallen Jedi, right? I think that's the name of it, right?
I actually didn't know that the God of War 3 director was helming this. That's interesting.
Yeah, Stig Asmussen. Yeah, he is the guy helming this. Which, if you guys loved God of War 3, you guys would totally love this. Probably would not like the fact that this is being, published by EA. But, of course, without fail, EA would never disappoint us. And, of course, the first thing that they use to market the game is this, Daniel. No microtransactions, no loot boxes, purely single-player game. Forget the fact that it's Star Wars or that it's got a good story and probably a good combat system. Guys, it has no microtransactions, no loot boxes, and it's single player. Bam. Mic drop by EA.
Yeah. The same company that said these types of games are dead.
Pretty much, right? Pretty much. Oh, Dom. Man. Dom put up something really funny. Let's pat ourselves on the back for not being dicks. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of sad that they have to they think that it is a good thing that they're doing this, to be clear, but it's guys, you shouldn't have to boast about this. That's the problem. Like, you've put yourselves in a position where you think boasting about something that is, that should be a normal feature in your fucking game, or, that you have to brag about the fact that you're not putting something in your game that you perpetuated.
Yeah, heaven forbid. Are we really, gosh, are we really at that point where, we're supposed to be happy about the EA actually doing that? It's so weird, man. I don't know how to feel about all this stuff, quite honestly.
Well, here's what I think. Fuck that noise.
Okay.
Because the thing that you should actually care about is that this game is being written by Chris Avellone.
Okay.
Do you know who that is?
Well, for the people who don't know, you should probably share.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Okay. So this guy wrote Planescape Torment, which is heralded as a PC gaming classic, just one of the best PC games made. He also wrote Fallout New Vegas, which a lot of people say is the best written Fallout game. He wrote Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, which a lot of people say is the best Star Wars thing written, or at least the best Star Wars game written. So this guy is responsible for a lot of games where people say this is the best written thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's actually very interesting that he is returning to Star Wars, because Knights of the Old Republic 2 is kind of a commentary / criticism of Star Wars, specifically its use of the Force. And I think it's very interesting to see okay, it's been like more than a decade since that game came out. He's matured as a writer since then, I'd imagine, and I'm kind of wondering how his thoughts on Star Wars are now and how he's going to incorporate that in the new game.
That's actually a very interesting point because, much time has passed since KOTOR 2, So it'd be really interesting to kind of see, like, how he can spin this, or if he makes this another commentary of something else, right? Because that's kind of like the thing about Chris Avellone is he's known to, have some really kind of out there views of, how to develop game narrative. And some falter, some are pretty good, right? I should have probably added...
Well, most are good from what I've experienced.
Right.
At least.
I'm going to add that Dom Hawk actually said that Prey 2017 was also written by Chris Avellone, which is actually a pretty fun game as well. Fun as in relative fun because, man, that is a stressful game to freaking play because of all the mimics and everything like that. Number one Madman says, now, just like Apex, don't touch it, EA. Just back away and let the good people work on this. Don't ask questions, EA. Just wait. Yeah, so I actually found the original tweet that they sent out, EA Star Wars account, that literally says, and I quote, no microtransactions, no loot boxes, and no, we won't be adding them. A single-player Star Wars story for those of you who are ready to become a Jedi. Okay. So I guess we never became a Jedi when we played like Star Wars The Old Republic, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, etc., right? I mean, I'm being facetious right here, but
I was going to say, hey, cut him some slack. I don't think that's what he meant.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's weird to be living in a post-Anthem world because it's really like, it's not like EA's public perception has improved, right? Like over the past several years, they've gotten worse, as a matter of fact, right? So, it's just so surprising to me that, they thought that it was a good idea to literally say no microtransactions, no loot boxes, as opposed to leading in with like, this is why you'd want to play this game, blah, 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 and then end it with like, we're not going to have any microtransactions. Like, it's kind of like saying like, hey, Daniel, that new Toyota you got, it never breaks down. Really, it will never break down. And then here's all the features.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, I would assume so, right?
Right? You just bought it, right? So it's like, okay.
Yeah, it almost makes you concerned, like, why are you telling me this?
Why now? Like, we want to know about the game.
Now, I will say I am cautiously optimistic for this game because we have not had a good Star Wars game with good lightsaber combat since Jedi Academy, like 16 years ago. And no, Force Unleashed does not count. Lightsaber combat in that game was trash. That game was all about the Force powers. Lightsaber combat was just kind of thrown in there.
Okay, good point. I was going to bring that up, but yes, you are absolutely correct. It is more Force powers than anything.
And Force Unleashed 2 sucks.
Yeah, it does. It's pretty bad.
That game is a polished turd.
Wow. Yeah, I agree with Dom Hawk. He's saying Force Unleashed lightsaber felt like a club. Actually, now that I think about it, it literally did feel like a club. Didn't feel like a lightsaber. I'm like, bro, you got a freaking lightsaber.
I legit remember like there was like a canned animation that you could do where there's like these characters that use fucking sticks, and you could it was like this animation where you were like blocking the hits from the stick, and I'm like, it's a lightsaber. It should be cutting through it.
Yeah.
And nothing. Yeah. It's so frustrating. I understand they wanted to make it like a character action-ish, Devil May Cry-ish type of game, and that's kind of neat. And it works better when you're fighting some of the bigger enemies, because then a couple of slices here and there wouldn't immediately take it down. But I guess I felt like the character was too powerful and so they had to nerf him by making the lightsaber not that powerful.
So you're saying, like, in so much power that he has, he's also the weakest character in the game.
I mean, I guess. I mean, just go back and play. Just go back and play. You know, Jedi Outcast. You know, like that game. That's lightsaber combat, where like you feel like you're on the verge of life and death, and you're just like, oh my god, I'm fighting this freaking Sith Lord right now, and I'm just trying my best not to die. And it really feels like, you know, what a literal lightsaber duel would feel like.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it feels at all in Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
And fair enough, it's going for a different type of gameplay. It's not trying to be that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm more lamenting that like we haven't gotten anything like that in freaking 16 years.
Mm-hmm. Oh, just to kind of inject this into the conversation, because I actually thought this was really funny. Number one Madman actually posted the no microtransactions, no loot boxes, and no, we won't be adding them kind of thing. And guess what they tweet immediately after that? Trust no one. What? So, what are you trying to tell us, EA?
What are they saying?
What? Okay. Thanks. Like this is like the guy at like your freaking car dealership trying to sell you your car, and then after you sign the deed and stuff like that, he rides in the back seat. He's like, "Don't mind me. I'm just, I just need a ride home," or something like that. Like, what the hell kind of ridiculous crap is this?
You really like tracing it back to the car dealership.
It makes things relative to an experience, okay? And that just happens to be something that I'm latching onto right now.
Well, like I said before, I'm still cautiously optimistic about the game. I mean, director of God of War 3, even though, actually, I mean, now that I think about it, the problem with God of War 3 was not the gameplay, it was the story. So, they got a great writer now. So that, I mean, you have the strengths of this guy's gameplay, and now you have the strength of this writer, combine them. Hopefully it turns out really good. I don't know. Fingers crossed, I guess.
If the first gameplay shows the new Jedi guy with two lightsabers, and there's chains attached to them and his arm, I'm gonna be like, bruh, what the fuck?
Dude, okay. Seriously? that would not happen. I think George Lucas would personally see to it that would not happen.
He has no control over any Star Wars thing anymore. He sold it. He doesn't own.
He would do the Swatsi Hado just to make sure it wouldn't happen. He would teleport to that guy's office and make sure it didn't happen.
We'll see. We don't know a lot about this, but jokes aside, I am looking forward to how the lightsaber battles are going to be. I think that's really the test of a truly good Star Wars game, right? And you got to understand too, like Respawn probably has only one chance at this, right? As with most new companies given an IP, of course, except if you're DICE, who made 2 Battlefront games and they're still continue to do so, which is like, why? So I'm hoping that Respawn and those folks, those are talented people, right? Like, you guys got to understand, like, Respawn is actually in a pretty good place in Los Angeles. It's near Sony Santa Monica, it's near Treyarch, it used to be Infinity Ward. There's Blizzard employees could join the company. Like, there's a lot of actually really good talent that could be working on Fallen Order, and that to me is like what makes me excited about this. It's just right now, for me personally, seeing a CG trailer, like, that is so 10 years ago for me. Like, I'm just like, bro, like, What's you remember like the lawsuit that EU actually like did on EA, where they basically said like, no, you have to show gameplay if you're gonna post like trailers and commercials on our airwaves, right? Like it has to represent gameplay. Remember they got in trouble with that because like I think it was like Need for Speed or something showing like CG and all that crap.
Yeah, I do remember that. But they're right though. You need to actually see what the game plays like. Otherwise, you just see this CGI trailer and you just think obviously we wouldn't fall for it, but like a lot of people who don't or aren't in the know could get tricked into buying the game thinking, oh wow, look at this, look at these graphics, this is how the game's gonna look. And obviously not. It's just an FMV.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like, they've gotten into trouble so many times for that already. But that hasn't stopped them from using CG to hype people up. And I'm not saying that, you shouldn't do things like that, right? Like, there are moments where CG trailers can hype things, right? Let's, this was to pander to MB, who is in the chat right now at bit.ly/BBArmy Discord. Mortal Kombat. Think of how they hyped that game, right? They started off with gameplay, pure gameplay a lot of the time. And then, they started off with CG, right? Let's be fair. They started with CG. But you can tell the kind of feel that they had, that they wanted to impart in that game. But it wasn't just enough of that, right? They also led into gameplay, and they showed you gameplay shortly after that trailer got released. So you literally was just like, all right, well, here's the concept. This trailer will show it to you, but here's the gameplay. And as the weeks go by, getting closer to the launch of Mortal Kombat 11, you're seeing a lot of like CG trailers as well that kind of talk about the story, but they're also using those to hide characters that they're going to announce all the way in the background. So I think NetherRealm is actually doing it the best way that I could ever think of in recent memory. But EA starting off with like, yeah, look at this awesome CG. Well, that's freaking great. I hope it looks just as good, if not better, because, I'm not as gullible as I once was. Like, I'm ready to just play the game and see it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, just look at Anthem. When they first showed that game, all that shit was fake.
Yeah. And also, Mass Effect Andromeda. They showed the exact same footage there, and then, it was problematic. Yeah. So, anyways. So, I'm glad that people are excited about this once again, but, time will tell if this turns out to be an amazing game, and hopefully in June at E3, we'll see a lot more of it, right?
Here's hoping. Fingers crossed.
Here's hoping. Now, we have a special thing that we'd like to do today, because today, when this podcast episode is released, it is the 1-year anniversary of the worldwide release of Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. So, Daniel?
Alex?
You beat Yakuza 6, right?
I'm offended you would even ask.
Hey, I have to check.
Of course I did. Literally the only Yakuza game I haven't beaten is Dead Souls, because we don't talk about that one.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I did play some of it though. It's not that good.
Okay. Let's not, bury that one quite yet, if you know what I'm saying. Yakuza 6 did come out like about a year ago and stuff, and I had the pleasure of reviewing it a whole month before that came out. You remember that last year?
I remember. I was green with envy.
But it was funny though, because and this is not really a huge spoiler for people who have never played the game, right? But this is part of the marketing material. But I basically released this week an interview with John Riesenbach, who is the person responsible for the live chat in Yakuza 6. And as you know, it's a very funny / titillating kind of mini game and stuff, where Kazuma Kiryu, in his best efforts, try to use his 2 fingers to try to type as many 13-letter characters as possible, because apparently that's the limit of how much Kiryu can actually type. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked it out, go check it out. Obviously, this will be out by the time this video / podcast is released. But I'm doing that because, I wanted to celebrate Yakuza 6 in a very different way, very more like insidery kind of way. And so we learned a lot about what they did with Lenny Face, how that came about, and deeper understanding of that, right? Also, how did they figure out the gameplay and stuff compared to Japanese? It's all like a lot of really cool stuff. But anyways, going back to what I was going to talk about. When I got Yakuza 6, for my review copy, I actually didn't know the plot, Daniel. I seriously did not know the plot. I had zero notion of what the plot was all about. Never saw the box art. Never saw the collector's edition stuff. Never read any of the press releases Sega sent me. Never looked at any of the screenshots Sega sent me. Never watched any of the trailers. So I literally, in the definition of the word, in the proper definition of the word, I went into Yakuza 6 blind.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was completely unspoiled for me. The only thing that I knew about Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, was that it was Kiryu's last game. That was it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So to me, I think, and then when I played the game, I was just really surprised. Oh my God, what is this baby, right? In the opening scene, right? And again, there is a demo for Yakuza 6 in case people are curious. The save does transfer to the main game, just like another game that I previously reviewed. And, after that fight, in the alley and stuff, the tutorial fight, and then Kiryu comes back to the bar and then takes out this powder. I was like, Kiryu, you're not high on cocaine, are you? And he literally just makes a baby formula. I'm like, what? Yeah. And then I saw the baby and I'm like, what? Literally, that blew me away, man. I was like, what? I did not even know that. And what's this kid? What? Because, I swear to God, I even told Scott this when we talked later on. I told him, I thought the baby was literally just part of a mini game. I thought he was literally just a mini game. I never thought he was actually part of the story. The baby shaking and everything. Because the way that, some of the marketing that I did see, the smidgen of it, I'm like, there's baby shaking. Okay, that's a cute mini game. And then, of course, I play the game and I'm like, whoa, this is not just a small part of this game, bro. This is amazing. So, but yeah,
that's wild.
So that's my experience popping the game in for the very first time. How about you, Daniel? What can you remember your feelings, how you felt when you first played the game and stuff, and share it?
The thing that struck me the most when I first started playing the game was how it felt like Kiryu's last game, because Kiryu's been through so much. The events of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6, he is done. Mm-hmm. He is so far beyond done. And you can literally see it in his face. You can feel it when at the start of the game, when he's dealing with I forget his name. He was being really rude to Kiryu, and Kiryu is hearing all this crap from this guy, and he's just looking at his watch. He's like, "Hey, I'm on a schedule, buddy."
Mm-hmm.
He's so done. He's so beyond this petty shit. And then, he's the tutorial and you just beat the crap out of him because of course. And I love how Kiryu is just after he's done with him, the guy's just like, "Oh, we'll come back for you," whatever. He's like, "Dude, I don't have time for you. You should really think about how not everyone has as much time to spend as you do. You should be a little more respectful." It wasn't quite like that, but it was the same point of just not everyone has the time to just fuck around like you. You should be, have a little more respect than that. Mm-hmm. And just left him with that. And the guy is just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And then, so Madman says it is Nagumo.
Yeah, Nagumo.
Yeah. Nagumo. So for the chat right now, for people who are listening to us live at bit.ly/BBArmy Discord. We'd like to actually hear what is your first experience with Yakuza 6, if you guys have played it and stuff. Or if you haven't played Yakuza 6, what is your first experience of any Yakuza game and stuff? And just kind of share it with us, and we'll read some of those posts and stuff. So
all right. So real quick, my friend Dom, he said that his first experience with Yakuza 6 was, man, I wish I understood Japanese. Because, of course, Dom imported Yakuza 6 because he's a madman.
Yes.
Not to be confused with the other member of the chat, Madman.
Yes. Okay, so, man, I was trying to remember, like, my question. Okay, so one of the biggest surprises that I found in the game, other than, of course, the live chat stuff, which I still really enjoy to this day, especially because, just the dialogue in the chat, it's like, if you've ever watched a live stream on Twitch, it could be vile, it could be hilarious, and just, and to think, like, these guys are, like, super horny on, like, this one girl trying to strip, right, or something like that. Like, some of the stuff they say, like, is just the most ridiculous thing. Like, there's a guy named Sexbot9000 who literally talks like a robot, and sometimes in caps, I'm like, what? Oh my god, what is it? I forgot his name, but there is, I have to look this up now. Oh my god. It's man, there's so many characters though. That's kind of the thing. Take Your Heart. Like, if that's not a callback to, like, Persona 5, I don't know what is. Like, I don't know. It
has to be.
I mean, if you remember, like, in Persona 5, they have Like a Dragon as one of the movies that you can watch in Yakuza 5, in Persona 5. Yeah. I was like, what?
Makoto, she's a Yakuza fan.
Yeah, no.
That's why she's the best girl, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Okay, Veteran Drinker constantly talks about his ex-wife for some reason. I remember that because I was editing the Yakuza 6 live chat video that was released recently, and I was like, man, does Veteran Drinker really talks about his ex-wife? Because this is from John Riesenbach, right? Like, he's literally the guy who wrote all this stuff. So I went through all my footage to kind of double check him, and literally is like, he's like, here's Veteran Drinker trying to, like, mac on, like, Yua and stuff, who's like the cute of the two. Of the two women and stuff. He was like, you're so cute, you look like my ex-wife. And I'm like, what, bro? Like, that's like, what are you trying to do here? This is ridiculous. And just, if you
wow, what a great pickup line. Like, hey, you remind me of my ex-wife.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my god, it was so bad. Like, literally, like, it's so hilarious just, like, reading all that stuff. Like, tree fitty, like, as in tree, not a three, like a tree, like literal tree fitty. I was like, man, like, he has a lot of typos, and I was like, and I was just reading, like, the interview that I had with John, and I was like, this is really interesting to just think about that. But I just remembered what I want to talk about. So if you guys haven't checked it out yet, I like both Daniel and I have actually interviewed Scott Stricker, who of course is the head honcho of Sega localization for Yakuza and stuff like that. And it's a two-parter, right? The first part, you and I asked him questions, and the second part, I actually went on Reddit and, of course, asked some of the people who were following me on Twitter and the very early days of the Discord to ask him questions about Yakuza 6 and Yakuza Kiwami 2 and stuff, and the future, quote-unquote, of RGG. And, of course, the funny thing is, a lot of the things that he talked about in that interview, if you remember, actually came true. Remember when he talked about how he wanted to have a worldwide release of an RGG game, but with multiple languages? Remember that? Like, remember he confirmed that in that interview?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's so crazy, too, because, like, little did we know that's literally what he was doing in the background. It's like as we're recording it, he's just like, oh yeah, we're already recording that stuff.
What a boss!
What a boss, man. Scott, total MVP. The other thing, though, going back to, like, Yakuza 6, and this is something that you and I didn't pick up on until Scott actually brought it up. Because in Yakuza 6, there is an objective marker, which is brand new to the series, like on the top corner of the screen. and it actually has two sections. It has the actual objective of what you should do, and the second section, apparently in Japanese, it's just a restatement of what that first one was. So Scott actually approached the RGG studio guys and said, this is kind of redundant, especially in English. Can we use that instead to basically like show players what Kiryu's actually thinking about? And RGG Studio basically said, yeah, sure, like just write whatever you feel like is appropriate. And so it's kind of crazy that even, a localization team like that Scott is heading has that much influence on like the development of the localization of the game. And in some ways, it's actually better, right? Because think about that. The Japanese version of Yakuza 6 literally has two things that say the exact same thing. Think about that, right? That's kind of weird. Whereas in the West, it's literally like objective, here's what Kiryu's thinking. That's freaking great. In fact, I know a lot of people who actually don't like the last boss of the game. And I'm not going to spoil it for people, but because basically people said, it's kind of easy, whatever. But then they never spent the time to look at what Kiryu is thinking during that boss battle. How many of people in the chat actually took a look at what that actually said during that last battle? Because if you did, you know exactly how that battle was going to be. Do you remember what it said, Daniel?
I believe it said, "You're nothing to me." Exactly.
This is my last game. Let's get it over with. I don't think so, Dom. That's hilarious. So anyways, let's read some of the stuff that people have typed. Do you want to do the honors or should I?
Sure. So, number one, Madman says, I expected to play certain minigames, but ended up playing others a lot that I never paid attention to before release. And baseball in Onimichi was fun for me. I actually never really messed with the baseball in Onimichi, but I loved Onimichi as a city. Or rather, not really a city. It's it's like a little town, basically.
It was yeah. I actually didn't realize it was a real town. Did you know that?
No.
Oh. Yeah. Somebody on Twitter actually, during the release of Yakuza 6, was literally posting actual photos of Onomichi, like, on their Twitter. And sadly, it's gone silent since then, but it's really crazy to realize that Onomichi is a real place.
That's pretty wild. I know that Kamurocho is based on a real place, and I know that Sotenbori is a real place, but yeah, I didn't know that about Onimichi. That's wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see. Madman says again, a great experience that's story-based was how Kiryu's voice cracked at the beginning of the game at the orphanage. Caught me off guard. The performance was great. Yeah. I don't remember the specific scene you're referring to, unfortunately, but I do agree that Kiryu's actor I can't really see Kiryu as like anyone else. Like, I feel like the actor embodies the character at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's not miss Kithlin's post there. He says, I didn't even notice that feature in the entire game. He's talking about, of course, the Kiryu's thoughts section of the objective meter. So it's very easy to miss.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. It's this feature that it'll just pass you by you if you're not paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Domhawk basically says a cozy town like Yokosuka in Shenmue 1. It is really like that. It is really crazy. And lastly, Madman says, speaking of voices, here's a fun fact. Yakuza 6 released in the West the same day as Takeya Kuroda's birthday, voice of Kazuma Kiryu. So happy birthday, Mr. Kuroda. That's really freaking amazing. Woo! Yeah, that's awesome. That's pretty fantastic. That will forever be honored, like, in future iterations of this show if we ever continue talking about, like, Yakuza 6 and stuff. Because I think Yakuza 6, to me, is, like, one of those games that's really, like, it's such a great way to close out Kiryu's saga, right? Because like he's one of those guys that's just like, you know, he's lasted for so long. I mean, we first played as him on the PS2, and we are
Yes.
three
Oh my
generations.
god.
Yeah, 3 generations later, right? Like, you remember like when you first played those games?
I do actually. I remember initially dismissing them, probably like a lot of people, because I just assumed that they were Japanese GTA clones.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't want to play some bootleg Japanese GTA. And then a friend of mine was like, no, 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 no. You're totally wrong. They're actually these action RPG beat 'em ups. And I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, all right, I'm going to go pick up Yakuza's 1 and 2. And I've been a fan ever since.
Nani? I mean, I thought that was just appropriate. Sorry.
Nani Kodasai?
Yep. So yeah, I remember one of my friends basically telling me like you should pick up the game, and I picked up both games, but I never actually played like the first 2 games, even though I've had, you know, even though I had them. I actually started with 3, you know, and that to me is like rather the most fascinating part, right? Like, because I did technically watch the first 2 videos, you know, that they had included in Yakuza 3 and stuff, just to kind of catch up with the story. But even then, like, I felt like I didn't actually need to play the first 2 games in order to jump into 3, right? Because the 3 starts off with you being in you know, the orphanage and stuff like that, and I thought that was actually a pretty good start, especially if you're jumping into the series. But of course, as we all have played Yakuza and stuff, it's actually just really good to play whatever the latest one is. I mean, because the way that they write the story, and this is, I think, a testament to how good their storytelling is that you can always go back and it'll still enrich your understanding of Kiryu's character, right? It never diminishes it, right? You know, because you've already had like such a strong positive impression of Kiryu, regardless of what game you actually start, that going back just makes that kind of relationship like just stronger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. For me, though, since I started pretty much at the beginning, for me, it was like just seeing Kiryu grow throughout the years. And then I guess that's why Zero then had such a strong impact on me, because I saw this character from, Yakuza 1 through 5, and then I saw him go back literally to 0, and then I was like, "Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a baby now."
Right? It's kind of crazy.
It it was so interesting seeing like a rougher around the edges version of the character when I'm used to seeing him like older and, getting up there in age, and so why not wise per se, but like he's so experienced, and then to see him as like a greenhorn almost, like it's so
Mm-hmm.
weird, but
Yeah.
like it makes me it's such an emotional experience.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you know, like it's interesting because like, you know, as I worked on that live chat interview with John and stuff, like, you know, looking at all the footage that I had, because I don't know if you guys know this, but like I still have my footage from like all the reviews that I did for the past year or so. And so going through, you know, like the footage of the story, the mini games, the side quests, like man, it's like one of those things that reinforces that idea that the Yakuza series is just one of the most amazing franchises and series to date. You know, it's just like, you know, for any game to be able to evoke that strong of an emotion and also memory in you, like that's, you know, that is a very rare thing, I think, in games. And, you know, that's something that, you know, I'm thankful that Yakuza and the entire series is actually able to do. So thank you to everybody who worked on it, RGG Studio. Thank you to Scott. Thank you, John, and all you guys. Yeah, it's been a blast, and we're looking forward to Judgment in July, the next
Can't wait.
new
Can't wait
adventure.
to. Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait to jump back into Kamurocho with a new character. And I think, you know, I watched this video and it made me think, because if you think about it, isn't Kamurocho itself the main character of the series?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Because we're going to be moving on to a new character, and not just in Judgment, but also in Shin, Yakuza. But the town, or the district of Kamurocho, is still there, and I think it's really interesting not just to see Kiryu change over the years, but also to see Kamurocho change over the years, because it's not like they just copied and pasted it in every game and it's exactly the same.
Mhm.
Some of the like, especially for us, since we've been playing the games for so many years, we notice some of the little differences here and there. Like, oh, this used to be a bowling alley, now it's gone. There's this one little shop I liked to go to, and now it's different. And you know, I think there's something special about not just seeing Kiryu change over the years, but also Kamurocho, and seeing the different permutations of the city over the years.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and we'll just see like where this story is gonna take us. I think it's gonna be really exciting either way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, that about does it for our show for today. So, Daniel, do you want to share to people like where they can find you, and of course what you'll be working on and how you're doing on that, if you know what I mean?
Okay, so if you want to follow, laying it on thick there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Shintai Reviews. If you want to follow me on YouTube, it's Daniel Santos, but you can also find me through Shintai Reviews. As for what I'm working on, I'm working on my school days video.
Hooray!
It is being worked on. 7 pages right now, longer than the Shadow of the Colossus video so far. And it's really shaping up. I have to say that this video in particular, I feel like my thoughts on it are shifting a lot as I'm going through it, which is a first for me. Usually when I write something, I have a pretty concrete idea of what it is I want to talk about, what I want to say, and it's just a matter of doing it. And usually it just like kind of balloons from there, because then I'll usually add on top of it. But this is different in that as I'm rewatching the show, my I guess you could say my approach towards the show has become a lot more nuanced, because originally I just flat out hated the show, and I still do. Let's not get that confused.
Okay.
But I will say that I feel like I understand it a lot more. I don't simply blindly hate it.
Okay.
I have a better idea of why it is that I disliked it and why so many other people disliked it. And hopefully this all translates to an interesting video.
All right. Sounds good. All right. And of course, you guys can find me on youtube.com/mybacklogbattle. That is my YouTube channel. And of course, where you can find the video version of For the Love of Video Games. And on Twitter at twitter.com/mybacklogbattle. That's where you can find me chatting, reposting memes, and all that crap. And of course, bit.ly/BBArmy Discord, where you can talk with me and of course the rest of the Backlog Battle Royale community, because there's a lot of awesome people here. As far as what I'm working on, I'm thinking of trying to make like maybe a few guides here and there for Zenki Zero. As you guys know, like that video kind of blew up and got about like 22,000 views, which is insane. And also for some reason, like my Caligula Effect Overdose review also hit 10,000 views, which is also really super insane. A lot of people love these RPG reviews, and obviously I'll continue to make them as much as I like I play them, of course, and of course when I get like early copies. And so apart from that, I'm gonna start posting guides for Final Fantasy XIV, especially beginner guides, because I know at the end of this week, the Regalia, the Final Fantasy 15 car, is going to be available for only level 50 players and people who have actually beaten A Realm Reborn Final Fantasy 14. So that is the only way that you can actually get the Regalia for free for the foreseeable future. Like, it's going to end like sometime, I think mid May or the end of May. So, and it is only the 4-player mounts in the game that flies and does all that stuff. So if you want to take advantage of that and also get Noctis's like armor and gear and haircut and everything else, go sign up for Final Fantasy. And again, within the next few weeks, I'm going to be posting some tutorials so that way you can get the best and the most out of your Final Fantasy 14 experience. Because yes, it is an MMO, but there is a damn good story behind it. So definitely check that out. Free trial all the way up to level 35. And yeah, I think that's about it, Daniel. So do you have anything else to say before we go?
Stop dishing out hot takes. Start drinking cold ones.
Awesome. Until next week, guys. We'll see you guys later. Enjoy your video games. Play them a lot. And have a wonderful week. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video. If you like what you watched, please consider supporting me by liking and sharing the video, posting a comment, and subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you won't miss any of my new videos. Also, follow me on Twitter at mybacklogbattle for the latest updates on upcoming videos, or to just chat about video games. Thanks for stopping by, and let's all have fun playing video games.